All right, let's dive into Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It is. So this book, it's kind of like half memoir, half peek behind the curtain of therapy.
Yeah.
You know, Gottlieb is a therapist, so she's writing from both sides, like what it's like to be the therapist and the patient.
Exactly.
And we've got all sorts of stuff to dig into, excerpts, summaries, and some quotes that really make you think. So are you ready to kind of unpack what therapy is all about and like what it tells us about ourselves?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I find fascinating? Gottlieb doesn't just analyze her patients, She kind of turns that lens on herself.
Right.
Like her own therapy journey, it becomes this case study too.
Yeah.
And it adds this whole other layer
Yeah.
of like, hold on, even therapists are human.
Totally. It's like, wait a minute, even the person giving the advice is seeking it out. It makes therapy seem a lot less intimidating, don't you think?
Yeah.
Or like, we're all just figuring it out together.
I think so, especially, when Gottlieb talks about John, the idiot patient.
Yeah.
She was really frustrated with him at first.
Oh, tell me about it.
And his story, it really shows how those snapshots Gottlieb talks about, those little pieces of our past experiences, they could be so misleading.
Oh, totally.
So on the surface, John's this like tech-obsessed guy who seems really detached. But Gottlieb, because she's going through her own therapy, she starts to look beyond that initial impression.
Okay, so for those of us who maybe haven't read the book yet,
Yeah.
what are these snapshots exactly? Like, break it down for us.
Okay, so think of them like puzzle pieces of our lives.
Okay.
Each snapshot, it represents a memory, a belief, a certain behavior even, often, from way back.
Mm-hmm.
And they totally shape how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world.
Right.
But on their own, they're not the whole picture.
Uh-huh.
And they can even be a little distorted.
Right.
So therapy helps us arrange those snapshots like a puzzle.
Oh, like to get a clear image?
Yeah.
To get the full picture.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So with John, there's that snapshot of him always on his phone, seemingly avoiding actual connection.
Yeah.
But then there's the snapshot of him opening up about Rosie, his dog.
Right.
And it just completely changes our understanding of him.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, boom, a whole new perspective.
Exactly. And it shows that he actually has this huge capacity for love that he's been hiding, maybe because of something that happened in the past, or he's scared to be vulnerable.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
You would never guess that by just, seeing him on his phone all the time.
Right.
Like everyone, even people who seem really emotionally distant, still crave connection.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes John's story so compelling, that unexpected vulnerability.
Yeah.
Speaking of vulnerability, Gottlieb also shares this really interesting story about a patient who's just devastated after a breakup.
Oh, yeah.
With a boyfriend who seemed perfect, on paper at least. Yeah. This one really gets into the whole idea of love and deal breakers.
Oh, for sure.
What seemed like this tiny little issue, her boyfriend not wanting to live with their child, ends up being this huge obstacle.
Oh, wow.
It kind of reveals that there were these deeper things they weren't really compatible on,
Yeah, it makes you think, right, about those things that are just non-negotiable, even when you're in love.
Exactly.
Like some things you just can't compromise on.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you think about your own deal breakers, too.
Absolutely.
What are those fundamental things, that we're not willing to budge on, even for the perfect person?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask yourself.
Right. And how often do we kind of overlook those needs when we're first attracted to someone?
All the time.
Right. This book is making me rethink everything.
It's good stuff, right?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And then we can't forget about Julie, the young professor with the terminal cancer diagnosis.
Oh, Julie, yeah.
Her story is just a roller coaster.
It really is.
I mean, so many emotions. It's all about acceptance,
Mm.
right? Her friend gives her this essay called Welcome to Holland, which uses this metaphor of a dream vacation gone wrong to explain, when life takes those unexpected turns, right?
At first, Julie just rejects it.
Totally understandable, I mean.
Oh, yeah, she's angry. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
But then there's this profound shift, and she starts to find joy in her Holland.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole death Scylla thing.
Oh, I love that part.
Right. Like, instead of letting the diagnosis control her last days, she takes charge.
Yeah.
She plans this amazing funeral, celebrating her life exactly how she wants it.
On her terms.
With humor, intention, everything. It's so powerful.
It really is. Yeah, it shows you, how strong we can be even when facing loss.
For sure.
We can still find meaning and joy,
Hmm.
and Julie's death cell approach, it shows us that we don't have to be morbid about facing death.
Right.
It can be about celebrating life and being okay with what's coming.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a total perspective shift.
Mm.
Now, Julie's story was about acceptance, right?
Yeah.
But John's journey really digs into that whole vulnerability thing.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how he was so resistant to opening up at first, always hiding behind his phone?
Mm-hmm. That avoidance, the distractions, classic defense mechanism.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's like protecting yourself from emotional pain,
Makes sense.
the fear of intimacy, rejection,
Right.
and his attachment style probably plays a big part too, how he connects with people.
Oh, interesting.
If his early relationships weren't so great, maybe unreliable or something,
Okay.
it makes it really hard to let people in later on.
So even though he seems detached, he's actually, like, protecting himself.
Exactly.
Wow, I'm really starting to see how those snapshots come together.
They do, right?
Yeah.
Gottlieb, since she's in therapy herself, she really gets it.
Yeah, she's got that firsthand experience.
And her sessions with Wendell, they become this parallel journey.
Oh, cool.
You see her struggling with similar stuff.
Mhm.
Like, she admits she's having a hard time writing a book about happiness. Yeah. While feeling totally unhappy.
I mean, talk about irony, right?
Oh, for sure.
But it's so refreshing to see a therapist admit they don't have it all figured out.
Right. It makes you realize they're just like us.
Yeah, and when she breaks down in Wendell's office, it's even more powerful.
Definitely.
Because you see that it's okay to be vulnerable.
It humanizes the whole process,
Absolutely.
Vulnerability isn't a weakness.
Right.
It's like the key to understanding yourself,
Yeah.
to connecting with people, for both the patient and the therapist.
And speaking of, being real, there's that whole bombshell when John reveals he has a son.
Oh, yeah, gay.
He kept it a secret, even from his wife.
It's a big deal.
It really shows how much those past experiences can weigh on you.
Yeah, the fear of judgment.
Makes you think about how complicated families can be.
Oh, for sure.
And the choices we make, how they affect everyone.
Then Gabe dies. It adds another layer.
Oh, that was so sad.
That part in Legoland, when John finally breaks down.
Oh, yeah.
Heartbreaking.
So emotional.
But it was a turning point for him,
In what way?
Facing that grief, the guilt, it helped him start to heal.
I see.
He starts to connect with Margot, his wife, more deeply.
Right.
Lets himself be seen,
It's incredible how Gottlieb weaves all these patient stories together.
Yeah.
With her own experiences, it's like we're all connected. And it's not just about the heavy stuff like grief and loss.
Mm-hmm.
She also talks about this idea of just being.
Oh, yeah, her hairstylist, Corey, right?
Yeah. What'd you think of his perspective?
It's interesting,
Yeah.
He's never done therapy,
Right.
but he's got this wisdom about accepting yourself,
Yeah.
being kind to yourself.
He's challenging the idea that we always have to fix things.
Right. Sometimes it's about just being, embracing the imperfections.
It's refreshing. Right?
Yeah. It makes you question if we always need to be working on ourselves.
Right. Maybe there's value in just accepting who we are.
Finding that balance.
Yeah.
And Gottlieb, she doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either.
Oh, like what?
The ethical dilemmas therapists face.
Oh, right.
Like running into a patient at the frozen yogurt place.
Yeah. Oh,
And then a patient who's married to Wendell's patient.
Oh, wow. That's complicated.
It really highlights how blurry those lines can get.
The personal and the professional.
Yeah, like how do you keep those boundaries
Right.
while still being human,
It's tough.
Yeah, she handles it with humor, but also sensitivity.
It seems like she's always learning.
She is, as a therapist and a person.
Towards the end, she's thinking about ending her own therapy with Wendell.
Mm-hmm. Makes you wonder,
About what?
what does it even mean to be done with therapy?
Right. Is it about not having any problems?
Maybe it's about learning to handle life's challenges on your own,
Yeah, knowing when to ask for help.
Exactly.
Her last session with Wendell, it's so emotional.
But there's also this sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, they both grew so much.
Their relationship, it really shows how powerful vulnerability and good guidance can be.
Gottlieb leaves therapy feeling empowered,
Ready to face whatever comes next.
with all the wisdom she gained from both sides of the couch.
Exactly. And while her journey is ending, it makes me wonder about the listeners. Do you think just listening to this deep dive could be a kind of self-reflection?
Yeah, it's like we did a group therapy session just by listening to Gottlieb,
Right.
But instead of focusing on ourselves, we're learning from everyone else's experiences and
Mhm.
realizing, hey, these struggles with love and loss, meaning, connection,
Yeah.
they're universal. We all go through them.
And maybe, as you're listening,
Yeah.
you're starting to see some of those patterns in your own life, too.
Right.
Like maybe you relate to John and how he avoids getting close to people.
Right.
Or Charlotte, always picking partners who aren't available.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe Julie's story made you think about how you deal with the unexpected.
It's amazing how these stories can make us think about ourselves, even if they're not our own,
It is.
It reminds me of those snapshots.
Yeah.
Have we, as listeners, started to put our own snapshots together?
It's possible.
Like, are we understanding ourselves a little better, the experiences, the things we believe that make us who we are?
You know what I love about Gottlieb's book?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't tell you what to do.
Right.
Or give you easy answers.
It's not like a self-help book.
No, it's just real, honest looks at being human.
Right.
And it lets you find your own meaning, make your own connections.
And that's more powerful than any advice, right?
I think so.
It's not about fixing ourselves. It's about understanding, embracing all the messy parts,
Yeah, and realizing that figuring ourselves out, it's a journey.
It never really ends.
No.
Gottlieb leaves us feeling hopeful, not because she pretends life is easy, but because she shows us how strong we are.
Mm-hmm. How much we can grow, how much we can heal.
This deep dive has been quite a ride.
It has.
So as we wrap things up, I'm curious, what stuck with you the most?
For me,
Yeah.
it's that reminder that being vulnerable isn't weak.
Yeah.
It's actually powerful.
Right.
It helps you understand yourself, connect with people,
Totally.
and live a life that's more real, more fulfilling.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
And for everyone listening, if you want to explore this more, the whole world of therapy and self-discovery, definitely pick up. Maybe you should talk to someone.
It's a great book.
You'll keep thinking about it long after you finish it.
Until next time, keep looking at those snapshots.
Right.
Keep asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
And embrace all the complicated, beautiful parts of being human.
Happy diving, everyone.